1989. 1989 was the last time we saw Indiana Jones on the big screen. He had fought Nazis, freed slave children, and escaped to Boulder. At the end of The Last Crusade, he literally rode off into the sunset. There's still money on the table. In 2008, Indy resurfaced with a new adventure and a new enemy in what critic James Berardinelli called the most lifeless of the series. James has his own page on Wikipedia, so maybe we should take his word for it. It's time we visit the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
That's how you get ants!
The origin of crystal skulls has been one shrouded in mystery and therefore, of course, conspiracy theories. They date back thousands of years to civilizations such as the Aztec, Toltec, Mixtec, and Mayan. At least as far as we know based on hasty internet research done for this episode. The conspiracy theories range from the skulls coming from the lost city of Atlantis or aliens. However, no skulls have been recovered on a documented excavation. Electron microscope analysis shows that the carvings were likely made by modern-day tools. Scientists believe they were manufactured in the 1800s. But everyone was so honest in the 1800s. Remember the Fiji mermaid from 1848? It definitely wasn't just a monkey glued to a fish. It was? Well, if you're looking for conspiracy theories, this isn't the video for you. Today we're talking about something even more obscure. Anything nice to say about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? The opening to this movie is so much fun. We are in the desert of the North American Southwest. It's a nice callback to the opening of Last Crusade. We see the desert, the mountains. Are we in another flashback? No, we're in Nevada in 1957. But that's okay. It's familiar territory for Indiana and his fans. A convoy of soldiers are driving through the desert. Soon we find out they aren't Americans. Something's wrong. They open the trunk and throw a crumpled, familiar brown fedora to the ground. They pull two men out of the trunk after it. One of these men, we still haven't seen his face, bends, picks up the hat and puts it on in silhouette against the side of the car. We get the sound cue for the Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is such a great opening. It's so cool. It's almost definitely a shot for the trailer, but it's also vintage indie. It makes you excited for the return to this universe. We're not still out hunting Nazis in 1957. Who are we up against? Soviet communists, of course. A bit of a history lesson. The USSR launched Sputnik 1 on October 4th of 1957. The idea that the US and the Soviet Union are in a desperate race for the seizure of technology and knowledge is as true in the real-world era as it is in the movie. I liked that Indy was going up against the commies. After the fall of Nazi Germany, they were the next logical choice, and in many ways much more nefarious than the Nazis. Also, is there a movie that Cate Blanchett isn't amazing in?
You're welcome.
The commies are looking for something in this facility they brought Indiana to, and he apparently helped with the project. The item is highly magnetized, so Indiana convinces them to start taking apart their grenades and weapons to follow the medical particles to their prize. It's a cool idea and a cool effect. Also, he's making them sacrifice their bullets and ammunition on this project, which is always good if you want to escape later and make it harder for them to shoot at you. The rules of the magnetism are a little flexible, but still pretty awesome. Once they open the box, all the overhead lights in the facility are attracted to the object. I'm going to recommend you watch the opening. The whole opening is classic Indiana Jones down to the sound effects. Why does it sound like a gunshot when he punches someone? Don't know, don't care. I love it. Indy is double-crossed by a friend, Mac, turns the tide, and we have our first chase scene through the government warehouse. A game of chicken starts, the Ruskies thinking Indy's going to flinch, but Mac starts yelling in the background for them to stop, screaming, "You don't know him, you don't know him," which is fantastic. How many times has Indy been in this exact situation? We all know how this is going to end, but I like the added touch of the traitor trying to warn them. Indy is with Mutt in a diner discussing the new adventure. We know he's being followed by either the FBI or the commies. Turns out it's the commies. They try to apprehend him. Indy tells Mutt to punch a jock in a letterman's jacket, which prompts a fight against the jocks and the greasers. Another classic Indiana Jones move, he's almost always aware of his surroundings and uses his intelligence and environment to get out of sticky situations. This kicks off another chase scene with Indy on the back of Mutt's motorcycle, which ends with... The part where they drive the bike through the library is great. I'm going to take a moment here to point out that Indiana was the dog's name and Shia LaBeouf's character goes by Mutt. It's clever, but LaBeouf only says his name once, so they don't beat you over the head with it. Some of the most fun in this movie is had when Indiana is interacting with Mutt. He acts very much the professor and goes into long explanations when Mutt obviously doesn't care. Shia and Harrison Ford had some pretty good on-screen chemistry in this movie. I love that they brought Karen Allen back as Marion Ravenwood. Out of all of the female counterparts, Marion was the only one who could keep up with him. She's not a damsel in distress, she's just as much a part of the adventure as anyone else. And, like with LaBeouf, the on-screen chemistry between Allen and Ford is great. The Amazon clear cutter is pretty cool. Maybe a little ridiculous, but still cool. Mac reveals to Indy that he's actually undercover and working with the CIA. I really like this. It was a twist on the usual trope for these movies, as Indiana seems to be duped by double agents all the time. The idea that someone was actually a spy was a nice twist. Then we find out it actually wasn't a twist, he was just trying to get back into Indy's good graces, to which Indy says, well, what does that make you, a double agent? And Max says, no, I was just lying before. One of Indy's biggest character flaws is that he's so obsessed with the hunt that he doesn't notice if someone is a bad guy. In the opening sequence of Raiders of the Lost Ark, he's betrayed by his guide Satipo, played by Alfred Molina in his first major film role. Elsa betrays him in The Last Crusade. He has a history of getting stuck with double agents. For as smart and experienced as he is, he's a little too trusting. And that's part of his charm. I don't know about Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Should I talk about it? I'm going to talk about it. The refrigerator scene.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No! No!
This had such a big impact that it ended up as a joke in Fallout New Vegas. Excellent game, highly recommend. This part of the movie is where most people lost their suspension of disbelief. If you've never heard that term before, the suspension of disbelief is a state of mind we go into when we're consuming media. We suspend logic, we don't overthink it, we just let it happen without getting too critical about it. You might be critical about it after the movie or book is finished, but the goal for any author or creator is to make sure the consumer of the medium stays in the story, holds on to that disbelief throughout the story. But sometimes they push it too far. When that happens, you lose the audience, and in a lot of cases, criticism rushes back in tenfold. The refrigerator scene was just too much. It makes Indy no longer lucky or experienced and turns him superhuman. Indiana Jones is just a professor who gets swept up in adventures. He's supposed to be ordinary, dealing with the extraordinary. Mutt swinging through the Amazon with the monkeys is ridiculous, but would we have thought it was ridiculous if the refrigerator scene hadn't already pulled us out of our suspension of disbelief? The correct answer is that we will never know. Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull hits so many great nostalgia points from the original trilogy that it fits in with the rest. It's ranked as the worst film in the franchise, but hold your breath because the fifth is supposed to be coming out in 2021. Wait, that's next year. If you trim out a few scenes, I think that this actually would have ranked above Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Add into the mix that it feels like the movie-going public grows more cynical every year, and I don't know if there will ever be a series that we can revisit without claims of ruined childhoods. If you're going to watch Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull, watch it for its action sequences, for the Jones charm, for the fact that Indy is slowly turning into his father. Watch for when his attitude changes when he finds out that Mutt is his son. Watch it for his chemistry with Marion. Harrison Ford has this character dialed in. I love when Indy is deep in a new discovery, and like Elsa said in The Last Crusade, he turns into a schoolboy. Thanks for joining us on Anything Nice to Say, and never be ashamed to like what you like. Be sure to like, Share and subscribe so you can check out all my ranting and ravings about movies. Hit the notification bell if you want to know when we drop something new on the channel. Don't forget to check out our Patreon and our merch store, links in the description.